The current geopolitical landscape underscores the strategic importance of military alliances. Following a contentious dialogue between U.S. President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, tension levels in Europe have escalated. This situation signals a critical moment for NATO's collective defense posture and its implications for regional stability. Reports indicate that European Union leaders are evaluating the potential suspension of military aid to Ukraine from the Trump administration. In response to the summit's developments, an urgent meeting convened by UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has led to a renewed commitment to bolster Ukraine's defense capabilities. This highlights the EU's strategic recalibration in military support. The United Kingdom has finalized a substantial defense agreement with Ukraine, amounting to £1.6 billion, approximately $2 billion allocated specifically for the procurement of air defense missiles. Additionally, a loan of $2.26 billion, around $2.84 billion, will be extended to Ukraine, underwritten by frozen Russian assets, with the U.S. contributing significantly. $20 billion in total aid to support this financial structure. The operational implications of this funding will enhance Ukraine's air defense systems considerably. The financial landscape for military aid continues to evolve, with approximately $10 billion allocated from international partners. Canada will contribute $3.7 billion, Japan $3.07 billion, and the UK $2.8 billion, reflecting a multinational strategic approach to ensure Ukraine's military readiness. This coalition of support underscores the shared commitment among Western allies to counter potential aggressions. Norway has emerged as a significant player in this support network, proposing to utilize its substantial sovereign wealth fund, valued at $1.7 trillion, to enhance military assistance to Ukraine. This decision illustrates Norway's strategic pivot in response to shifting dynamics in European defense commitments, potentially alleviating pressure on EU member states to sustain their military aid. The genesis of Norway's increased military aid, totaling $3.35 billion to date, contrasts with that of its Scandinavian counterparts, Denmark and Sweden, highlighting Norway's readiness to leverage its financial resources for geopolitical stability. The decision to activate its sovereign wealth fund is a critical move, especially as indications arise that U.S. military support may be diminishing, emphasizing the need for European nations to fill the potential gaps in Ukraine's defense posture. Norway's sovereign wealth fund, valued at over €1.7 trillion, represents the largest of its kind globally. This fund includes approximately €109 billion, generated from increased gas prices during 2022 and 2023. The financial resources at Norway's disposal could sustain its population without labor for 400 years. This significant financial reservoir is poised for strategic deployment to support Ukraine, as determined by Norwegian leadership. Guri Melby, the leader of the Liberal Party, has asserted that Norway's unique financial position enables it to rapidly escalate support for Ukraine. Former Conservative Prime Minister Erna Solberg echoed this sentiment, advocating for immediate and substantial increases in assistance. Although the Liberal Party and the Socialist Left Party have convened for an emergency parliamentary session, they await concrete proposals from the government. The leader of the Green Party has reiterated his stance on enhanced support. Norway has committed to providing €85.5 billion in aid to Ukraine. A spokesperson from the Foreign Ministry confirmed that Norway stands as one of Ukraine's largest donors, pledging at least 167 billion Norwegian kroner, equivalent to approximately €14.7 billion, by 2030. The spokesperson highlighted that the long-term nature of this investment is valued by both Ukraine and its NATO allies, raising questions about Norway's capacity to generate such a substantial fund for military aid. Since 2001, Norway has adhered to a fiscal policy limiting annual withdrawals from the sovereign wealth fund to no more than 4% and subsequently 3%. Instituted by Jens Stoltenberg's initial cabinet with bipartisan support, this rule is currently under review with Stoltenberg, now serving as Norway's finance minister, likely to uphold it. Thus, despite maintaining fiscal discipline, Norway is positioned to allocate significant financial resources without breaching its established guidelines. The Norwegian government is preparing to enhance its financial commitment to Ukraine. The initiative to utilize the Sovereign Wealth Fund more proactively for both Ukrainian support and broader European defense expenditure is gaining traction. Svartnug Rotevatn, the deputy leader of the Liberal Party responsible for fiscal policy, is advocating for a proposed increase of 100 billion Norwegian kroner in support this year. Projections indicate that aid for Ukraine could rise from 3 billion euros to 11.5 billion euros by 2025. The Norwegian Foreign Ministry has refrained from providing additional details regarding the specifics of the aid increase, citing prior statements from government officials. Rotevatn emphasized the necessity for Europe to adapt its support strategies and policies concerning Ukraine to ensure regional security. Foreign Minister Espen Barth Eide remarked that Norway's international policies depend on the existence of an independent Ukraine and a stable global order. Notably, Norway's support for Ukraine has been continuous since the onset of the conflict. Norway plays a critical role in regional security, defending the Baltic states and the Nordic region against potential Russian aggression. The Norwegian government has strategically supplied the Ukrainian armed forces with advanced military hardware, including 8 Leopard 2A4 tanks, 2 NASAMS, National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile System, a mobile air defense system capable of engaging multiple aerial threats, 1,000 Black Hornet small reconnaissance drones, and Dingo armored vehicles equipped with Cortex Typhoon counter-UAS unmanned aerial systems. Additionally, Norway has provided 100 Mistral air defense missiles, 4,000 anti-tank weapons, personal protective equipment, and 22 155mm tracked self-propelled howitzers, enhancing Ukraine's combat capabilities significantly. The proactive stance taken by Norway is indicative of its commitment to NATO's northern flank and its intent to deter any potential encroachment by Russian forces, particularly aimed at its neighbors Finland and Sweden. Norway's military support to Ukraine is coupled with a substantial financial commitment, increasing its investment in the Ukrainian energy sector to 3 billion Norwegian kroner, approximately $274.2 million USD, reflecting a strategic approach to bolster Ukraine's resilience against Russian offensives. A significant portion of Norway's support is aimed at ensuring stable electricity supplies for approximately 1.5 million individuals and critical industrial operations in Ukraine. This initiative aims to prevent energy shortages during the winter months, thereby sustaining both civilian life and military readiness. Furthermore, Norway is contributing to the restoration of power plants in key regions such as Dnipro, Odessa, Kharkiv, Zaporizhia, and Lviv, which are essential for maintaining operational capabilities. The latest procurement, facilitated by the United Nations Development Program, is set to deliver vital equipment to the Dnipro region this winter, augmenting the national power grid by an additional 80 megawatts. Funding for this equipment will be derived from a fund announced by Prime Minister Shmihal, intended for energy projects and various support mechanisms for the Ukrainian populace in their ongoing defense efforts. This strategic energy support includes comprehensive measures to provide electricity to urban areas and individual households, which may include insulation supplies to enhance energy efficiency during power shortages. By bolstering energy resilience, Norway enables the Ukrainian population to remain in their homes, rather than seeking refuge elsewhere. This approach not only supports the civilian population, but also strengthens recruitment and volunteer efforts for the Ukrainian military, enhancing Kiev's overall defensive posture. In contrast, Russia's military strategy appears to prioritize defense spending at the expense of domestic welfare. The majority of the state budget is now allocated to military expenditures, while the energy infrastructure remains outdated, a remnant of the Soviet era, which diminishes public confidence in the Putin administration. The Russian populace is increasingly aware that their government prioritizes military ambitions over national stability and societal well-being, leading to rising discontent and skepticism regarding the regime's objectives in the ongoing conflict. The current climate has resulted in a significant decline in voluntary enlistment among Russian forces. This situation raises strategic concerns for Norway, particularly regarding the potential for Russian expansionist ambitions to extend beyond Ukraine. The far northern regions hold considerable strategic value for Norway, crucial for maintaining national integrity and sovereignty. Russia's intentions to acquire these territories are evident, posing threats to both Norwegian identity and national security. Over the past 2 decades, Norway has increasingly recognized the Arctic territories as vital for their economic prospects. The Norwegian government is strategically investing in various sectors within the Arctic, including maritime operations, renewable energy, hydrocarbon and mineral extraction, satellite infrastructure, and tourism industries. The fishing and oil and gas sectors are particularly significant to Norway's economy, showcasing the region's multifaceted value. The Barents Sea is home to the world's largest cod fishery, a critical asset as Norway is poised to become the leading global fish exporter by 2023, with projected export revenues exceeding $15 billion. This industry's significance in the Norwegian economy necessitates a robust policy to limit access to the abundant Svalbard fishery for other Arctic nations, notably Russia. The prospect of Russian control over these resources would present a severe threat to Norwegian economic interests. Consequently, Norway is focused on containing potential Russian threats, particularly through its support of Ukraine. One of the primary motivations for Oslo's efforts to counter Putin is the protection of its energy resources. In scenarios of military aggression, there is a concern that Norway's energy assets could be leveraged by Russia to further its invasion strategies. The Barents Sea, jointly shared with the Russian Federation, conceals substantial oil and gas reserves, estimated to include 2/3 of Norway's remaining hydrocarbon resources. As of wartime 2022, 93 fields operated on the Norwegian continental shelf, with 70 in the North Sea, 21 in the Norwegian Sea, and 2 in the Barents Sea. Oil and gas exports constituted 73% of Norway's total commodity export value in 2022. The notion of Putin gaining control over these critical energy fields could destabilize not only Europe but the broader Nordic region, leading to an irreversible shift in geopolitical dynamics. Energy resources have historically served as a leverage point for the Russian leader, utilizing oil and gas as tools of coercion against European states. However, this dynamic began to shift following Russia's military actions against Ukraine. The 6th package of sanctions imposed on the Kremlin, effective from June 2022, included a comprehensive embargo on Russian oil supplies to European Union member states. This strategic measure aims to significantly diminish reliance on Russian energy resources, with an explicit goal of eliminating dependence on Russian gas over the next decade. In 2023, the value of Russian oil and gas exports plummeted to $30 billion, a reduction of nearly 66% compared to 2022. Projections for 2024 indicate a further decline in exports to EU countries, with official reports documenting a 24% decrease in revenue from fossil fuel sales for the Kremlin. In the short term, President Putin faces significant challenges in replacing European oil and gas customers. Norway has emerged as a key player, stepping in to fill the strategic void left by Russian supplies. Following Russia's aggression in Ukraine, Norway has ascended to the position of largest supplier of natural gas to the EU, currently meeting nearly 50% of the continent's gas demand. Notably, December 2023 saw Norway achieving a record gas production rate of 379 million cubic meters per day, according to data from the Continental Shelf Office. In terms of crude oil, Norway's deliveries to European nations reached 1.85 million barrels per day by the end of last year. This shift positions Norway not only as a supplier, but also as a strategic counterbalance to Russian energy dominance in Europe. Norway has adeptly leveraged the sanctions framework to curtail Russian influence, joining the EU sanctions in the summer of 2022, which included limitations on energy supplies from its northern territories to Barentsburg. In retaliation, the Kremlin initiated a media campaign targeting Oslo, challenging the legitimacy of the 2010 Barents Sea Delimitation Treaty and questioning Norway's sovereignty over Svalbard. While Svalbard is recognized under Norwegian jurisdiction, the activities of Norwegian authorities are cautiously regulated to avoid provocation of Russia, particularly concerning military operations. Following the invasion of Ukraine, there has been heightened vigilance regarding potential Russian military incursions into the strategically significant archipelago, which offers substantial maneuverability for Russian forces. This concern is exacerbated by differing interpretations of the Treaty of Spitsbergen, signed in 1920, which grants Russia certain economic rights in the archipelago. The Norwegian perspective limits these rights to the islands and their territorial waters, a distinction that has become a critical point of contention in the current geopolitical landscape. As tensions escalate, the strategic importance of Svalbard as a potential military staging ground for Russia cannot be overstated. The Russian Federation asserts territorial claims extending 200 nautical miles from the coastline surrounding the Svalbard archipelago. Notably, the Kremlin has designated this region as a demilitarized zone. However, Norwegian officials contend that while treaty stipulations preclude a permanent military presence, they permit the deployment of Norwegian troops and military aircraft operations. Given that Svalbard falls under the jurisdiction of a NATO member state, it represents a strategic area for Russia to conduct provocative maneuvers against NATO, the world's preeminent military defense alliance. President Putin is acutely aware of the geopolitical dynamics at play and is not reluctant to engage in aggressive posturing, effectively probing NATO's thresholds of tolerance. In light of these developments, Norway is proactively preparing for potential scenarios involving conventional conflict with Russia. There are increasing concerns among military analysts and political figures that should a conflict arise between Russia and NATO, Russian forces may attempt to seize northern territories belonging to Norway. In response to these alarming projections, the Norwegian government is mobilizing its military capabilities to address potential Russian offensives, aligning with the strategic doctrines established by NATO. Norway is also committed to bolstering defenses in the Baltic region and supporting Ukraine against Russian aggression. This commitment is reinforced by robust support from the United States, which is implementing stringent security measures to counter Russian threats within the NATO framework. NATO air bases in Poland represent a critical strategic asset for the United States and the alliance as a whole. Recently, the United States has operationalized a new ballistic missile defense facility in Redzikowo, Poland, known as EGIS Ashore. This facility is an integral component of NATO's broader missile defense architecture, designed to detect, track, and intercept ballistic missiles during flight, thereby enhancing transatlantic security and NATO's defensive posture against emerging missile threats. The missile defense capabilities provided by NATO facilitate the early detection of missile attacks, utilizing advanced radar systems to guide interceptors for the destruction of incoming threats. The Polish site is configured to engage both short- and medium-range ballistic missiles, reinforcing NATO's operational readiness. Aegis Ashore signifies a pivotal enhancement in NATO's ballistic missile defense capabilities, as articulated by Allied heads of state during the Washington summit. The overarching mission of NATO's ballistic missile defense is to safeguard European populations, territories, and military forces against the escalating threat posed by ballistic missiles. Aegis Ashore is exclusively defensive in nature. The key components of NATO's missile defense framework include 2 Aegis Ashore installations in Poland and Romania, U.S. Navy destroyers deployed from Rota, Spain, and an early warning radar facility located in Kurichik, Turkey. Approximately 200 military personnel are stationed at the 2 interceptor sites in Poland, underscoring NATO's commitment to maintaining robust defensive capabilities in the region. Romania's Devizelu site. The missile defense facility at Devizelu, Romania, has been operational since 2016, representing a strategic investment by NATO in Eastern European defense capabilities. The United States identifies Poland as a vital military hub within NATO's Eastern European strategy. Concurrently, Norway is aligning its military posture to enhance regional security, deploying approximately 100 personnel alongside NASAMS, National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile System, air defense systems, and F-35 Lightning II multi-role stealth fighters in Poland. Bastel, Norwegian support for Ukraine. Analyzing Norway's military expenditures reveals a robust $1.7 trillion budget aimed at countering Russian influence across the Nordic region, the Baltics, and the Arctic. This strategic repositioning not only reinforces Norway's commitment to collective defense, but also alleviates the security burden on the European Union. Furthermore, Norway's substantial sovereign wealth fund is a critical asset for Ukraine, representing a significant commitment to supporting both Ukrainian sovereignty and European stability in the face of aggression. Thank you for engaging with this analysis.